And I'm going to present to you 4 different herd scenarios that we've been facing in the past years. First of all, how good is the heat detection? So how good is the inter-service interval for these herds? But moreover, what is the fertility management that could have changed or could have modified the inter-service interval? These are the first herd, the 4 herds. Well, I'll tell you, one of them is not actually real. You can pick it up quite easily, but it was very simple. So try to come up with what's going on in this herd. Is there any fertility management situations that can shift the percentage of services one way or the other? Can you read it well? What do you think? Did you come up with a sort of solution? So just to put in a real scenario, and that's exactly what we have to do. You analyze these data and you come back to the farmer, and of course it doesn't care about sensitivity and specificity. It wants you to tell him what he's doing wrong and what you can do, or what is the next step. So let's start from herd number 1. What's going on there? Is wrong. It should be 2 to 17, but anyway, yeah. So you go a very high percentage in this group here. So what does it mean in epidemiological term, and what does it mean from the farming point of view? Okay, low specificity, that's great, fantastic. Okay, so can you think about an actual situation that will bring your farmer to AI lots of animals in the early part of the cycle? So you go an inter-service interval around less than 17 days. So that means you go lots of animals that get AI'd in the very early part of the cycle. So that means you go a cow that get AI'd today and a cow that go AI'd tomorrow, 5 days later, 7 days later, 8 days later. What does it mean? What do you think you can find if you do your routine visits or if you look at the farm records? Okay, yeah, the records can be not that great. Well, there was actually, we look at the farm records, the fertility records, and there was something pretty striking coming up. So imagine you're scanning your cows. What is a condition that will bring your cow on and on 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 days after your first AI? Cystic ovaries, fantastic guys. So this guy had lots of cystic ovaries. So lots of cows were coming on heat, but the ovulation wasn't happening. Okay, so the cow came on 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 days later, and so on. And so there were lots of cystic ovaries. There is, well, anyway, so that was the main finding in this particular case. Well, I'll talk about the other thing we found, but there was a different herd that had a similar situation. There were no cysts later on. What's happening in herd number 2? What are you going to tell the farmer? Of course, you got lots of cystic ovaries, so you probably should investigate why you got so many cystic ovaries. It's like, that's the, negative energy balance, metabolism, whatever is going on there. What's herd number 2? First of all, is there a problem with sensitivity or specificity in this farm? Is the farmer just missing animals, or is the farming AIing the wrong time? It's missing, isn't it? It's pretty good. If you look, he knows if the animal doesn't get picked up here, it's going to be picked up here. Okay, there is a very small number of animals that get picked up in the meantime. Okay, so it's just mainly a problem of the guy not heat detecting that well. Okay, so whatever is the device that's been using on farm is probably not as accurate. So you would like to have more of these animals being shifted here. And this particular guy had different herdmans on a different alternative week. So there was probably a guy that was picking up some particular cows in some particular days on his week, and the other guy. So there was an alternative week going on in this particular farm. So probably a herd dairyman was better than the other, so it was picking up more the heats or whatever was going on. But you can see what's happening there. So but it's a problem for animal mist more than anything else. What about herd number 3? It's not heat detecting, and when he does it wrong, isn't it? This guy is all over the shop, isn't it? He does just anything, he eyes a cow. With this guy here, you should probably really start from the basic. What are the clear signs of histrus? How you should heat detect the animal? These basic principles. Another thing I'm gonna pick up from, and it's mainly linked to these farms here, you should look at her records. How does he actually record the AIs? This guy here, if we was AIing a cow twice, in 2 days or 3 days in a row, it was recording them as different different AIs. So what happens is that you go lots of herds or lots of cows, they go an inter-service interval of 1 day, 2 days, and so on. So sometimes you really have to look specifically at the herd records. Does it make sense, guys? So if this just tells you a percentage between 2 and 17 days. If you go lots of animals get AI today and then tomorrow and the day after, just because the cow is got long heat, it's going to show up like that. Okay. Last thing, herd number 4. What's going on there? It's not picking up heat at this time period here. Where does it pick up all the heat? Second one. What is the interesting thing about this graph here? So look, poor heat detection here, poor heat detection here, poor heat detection here, excellent heat detection here. What happens after this day? Nothing gets passed. You know, nothing in this herd, and that's a herd that we see 900 milking cows. There is never a cow that gets AI'd beyond 48 days. What does it mean? Is it a management thing? Is he doing it on purpose? Okay, yeah, it could be seasonal herds, but it's not this case. Remember, the seasonal herds, we're going to look later on, the breeding period is 3 or 4 months. You can still see cows coming back over and over again. Think about our situation. I'll tell you, this guy wouldn't have 900 cows if he was adopting this policy, but anyway, it's a very similar situation. Synchronized, guys. Fantastic. This guy doesn't heat detect at all. He doesn't want to waste money on pedometers. He doesn't waste money on staff heat detecting. Okay, occasionally some guy just walking by sees a cow's on heat and he eyes them. But then what happens at around 28, 35 days? You PD your animals. And what happens to the PD negative? They get synchronized. How long is a usual synchronization protocol? How long does it last? Remember that Monica Mem, off-sync, pre-sync? How long does it take usually for most of the synchronization protocols? A week, 10 days? A week, 10 days, isn't it? 10 days would be the normal off-sync. So if you PD most of your animals between 28 and 35 days, and you synchronize them all to get AI 10 days later, you can see they follow between 38 and 45 days. Bang on. That's what happened in this guy. These guys synchronize. All the animals are negative. They get synchronized and they picked up there. So that's exactly what you want to see from these guys. So before jumping to a conclusion, oh, the sensitivity is pretty poor. What is the fertility management in this guy? This guy is doing pretty well. Nothing gets passed. It doesn't call them, but if a cow is negative, it's definitely going to get treated and it's definitely going to be AI'd. Nothing gets past this stage here. Okay. Well, that's a plan. You know, I would like you to, I bring your herd like that in front of you and you know how to analyze the data. So think about sensitivity and specificity, but actually what's happening in the real scenario. What can we conclude is that improving heat detection improves fertility. And we go different kind of situations where we can improve heat detection and fertility. Let's move on. That's another example here. I think that lameness is one of the main factors also limited fertility performance. And here is a study that was published a few years back from Walker and colleagues. And what is it telling you, this graph here? What do you think is going on? Why is a good explanation of fertility, of lameness, limiting fertility performance? So this guy basically divided the cows in mobility scored them, cows not lame, moderate lame, and severely lame, and he gave a score to the estrus intensity. So he basically look at different signs of heat and decide, okay, if it's the cow is stand to be mounted, I'll give you 100 points. If it's jumping out of the cow, I'll give it 20 points, and then he scored them all. And what he found is the cows that are severely lame are not showing estrus as well as the other one. And well, that's a mobility score, so it's just based on mobility scoring evaluation. And basically what he found out that the cows that are severely lame are going to have a lower submission rate. Of course, if a cow doesn't express estrus that well, it's not going to be picked up by the farmer as well, so the submission rate is going to be reduced. That's another example of a study that's go a few years as well, a few years back. And this guy instead is concentrated, look at the effect of lameness on conception rate in this case. And look, pretty much the same results. Control, so cows that were not lame, 56% conception rate. Cows that were lame, moderate lame, or severely lame, in this case no distinction, 46% conception rate. the difference is quite outstanding, 10%. So there is also an effect on your conception rate. So looking at all these studies, we did the same thing for our herds. That's a herd that we have been monitoring for quite a few years. And what we decided to analyze the data for is cows that were not recorded lame based on our mobility scoring in the first 70 days in milk, and cows that were lame in the first 70 days in milk. And we look at the reproductive performance, so submission rate, conception rate, and pregnancy rate throughout the entire lactation. Look at the effect of a cow being lame early in the lactation. Over 10% reduction in submission rate, 5% reduction of conception rate, and overall reduction of pregnancy rate. So it's happening even in our small herds without doing a proper study, and it's a very powerful thing. You show it to the farmer, look at the effect of lameness. It's massive in your herd, and we can show it to you. So to summarize, control of lameness improves fertility, and you got an example here. So we tried to address the lameness problem, sitting down with our farmers, discussing it. It's not something you want to discuss during your fertility discussion, but it has to be in the back of your mind. If you walk in a herd, it's called high proportion of lame cows, you probably should address that, and you have an effect on the fertility performance later on as well. What is this study showing us from the guys in Nottingham, published just a few years back? What is it telling us? Have you seen this graph before? It's a prevalence study, isn't it? It's telling anyone wants to attempt to look at this graph and says, oh, I don't know, is it working? These are 202 herds in the entire UK, between 1 and 202, and this is the percentage of lame cows, but not just percentage of lame cows. That's percentage of cows that on mobility scoring were scored free. So remember the UK system, every country has got a different system, but our mobility scoring is between 0 and 3. So 3 are the very severely lame cows, the ones that are almost no weight bearing. I think it's a shocking result. Look how many herds have got more than 5%, more than 10%, more than 15% of cows that are actually not weight bearing. How do you think these cows are going to express heat? These cows are probably not even standing up. They're probably lying down most of the day. So it's quite important. So if you walk in a herd like that, in the far end of the spectrum, you know, the fertility is probably going to be quite badly influenced by the high lameness percentage in your farm.